Welcome to the channel PenCoinWorth Lab, and imagine for just a moment that you're standing at a gas station, fumbling through your pocket for exact change, your fingers brushing past pennies you've touched 1,000 times before. But what if one of those ordinary copper coins, the kind you'd toss into a take-a-penny dish without a second thought, was worth more than a luxury penthouse in Manhattan? That's not a fantasy, that's the reality we're diving into right now, because the 1981 Lincoln penny, yes, a 1-cent coin most people wouldn't even bother picking up off the sidewalk, has commanded prices that will make your jaw hit the floor, and we're talking about a coin that could be sitting in your change jar, your car's cup holder, or tucked inside an old coat pocket right now. This coin has sold for as much as $15 million, and before you say that's impossible, before you dismiss this as clickbait or exaggeration, stay with me, because the story behind why certain 1981 pennies carry that kind of staggering value is one of the most fascinating chapters in all of American numismatic history, and understanding it could genuinely change your life. The 1981 Lincoln cent is not a coin that looks special at first glance. It's copper, it's small, it features the same Lincoln Memorial reverse and Abraham Lincoln obverse design that has graced American pennies since 1959, and on the surface there is absolutely nothing that screams fortune, nothing that whispers treasure. But that's exactly the trap, and millions of people fall into it every single day, tossing away potential fortunes because they don't know what to look for. So let's fix that right now, because knowledge is the only thing standing between you and a life-altering discovery. And by the end of this segment, you'll know exactly what separates a common 1981 penny worth 1 cent from one worth millions. The year 1981 itself was a pivotal moment in American monetary history, sitting right at the cusp of a major transition in how the United States Mint produced its coinage. The country was still navigating economic pressures. Metal costs were fluctuating, and the Philadelphia and Denver mints were both striking pennies at enormous volumes, with Philadelphia alone producing over 7 billion Lincoln cents that year, and Denver contributing hundreds of millions more. But here's what makes this even more valuable. Within that sea of billions, a tiny fraction of coins emerged with characteristics so rare, so technically precise in their rarity, that the collecting world went absolutely electric when they surfaced. The most prized 1981 pennies are those struck on wrong planchets, meaning the blank metal disc intended for a different denomination or even a different country's coinage accidentally fed through the press, and what emerged was a Lincoln cent design stamped onto metal that was never meant to carry it. Can you imagine? A coin that shouldn't exist by any measure of probability, yet somehow made it through every quality control checkpoint and escaped into circulation. That's the kind of cosmic accident that creates million-dollar coins. Beyond the wrong planchet errors, the 1981 Lincoln cent also produced extraordinary double die obverse specimens, where the hub used to impress the design into the working die shifted during the hubbing process, creating a coin where Lincoln's portrait, the date, the motto "I in God we trust," and liberty all show dramatic doubling visible to the naked eye. We're not talking about a subtle ghost image you need a loop to find. We're talking about separation of letters so pronounced that even a casual glance reveals something is magnificently wrong with this coin. Hit that like button right now if you're already reaching for your change jar, because what we're uncovering here is the kind of information that most coin dealers will absolutely never volunteer to share with you. Not because they're bad people, but because informed sellers mean higher prices, and there's an entire underground economy of collectors who benefit from the public's ignorance about what their pennies are truly worth. The grading scale for these extraordinary 1981 cents plays an enormous role in value. A double die obverse example in circulated condition, showing where on Lincoln's cheek and the high points of the design, might sell for anywhere between several thousand and tens of thousands of dollars, while the same variety preserved in pristine mint state, graded MS 65 or higher by PCGS or NGC with full original red luster blazing across the surface, enters an entirely different stratosphere of value. The coin's copper composition, remember 1981 was the last full year before the mint switched to zinc cores in 1982. Means that surviving mint state examples have to fight against the natural tendency of copper to tone and oxidize, making truly pristine specimens extraordinarily rare even among the error coins. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering tonight has a story that takes everything we've just discussed and cranks it up to an almost unbelievable level, so do not touch that dial. Now, the authentication process for a potential 1981 Lincoln cent rarity is absolutely critical, and this is where so many hopeful collectors make expensive mistakes. The moment you think you might have something special, your first instinct might be to clean it, to make it shine, to present it in its best possible light, and I am begging you, please resist that urge entirely, because cleaning a coin destroys its numismatic value instantly and permanently, removing the natural surface chemistry. that authenticators use to verify authenticity and grade condition. What you want to do is place the coin in a soft coin flip or plastic holder without touching the surfaces, never rubbing it, never breathing heavily on it, and submit it directly to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading. These services will examine your coin under high magnification, compare it against known genuine examples and die marriage records, and if it checks out, they'll encapsulate it in a tamper-evident holder with a grade and variety designation that transforms a raw coin into a certified market-ready treasure. The auction records for top-tier 1981 Lincoln cent errors span some of the most dramatic bidding wars ever witnessed in the rare coin hobby. Rooms going silent as paddles rise, phone bidders competing against floor bidders, prices doubling and tripling past estimates as collectors who have spent decades searching for these coins finally get their chance at ownership. Subscribe to PenCoinWorth Lab right now because we cover these auction events, these discovery stories, and these identification guides in every single video. And the next coin we discover together could be one that's been hiding in your collection for years without you ever realizing what you had. What makes the collector demand for exceptional 1981 Lincoln cents so persistently fierce is a combination of historical significance, technical rarity, and that profound human element, the accessibility of it all. These aren't coins that belong to kings or were minted in tiny proof sets sold directly to collectors. These are coins that were made for change, for parking meters, for vending machines, for the everyday commerce of ordinary American life, and that's what makes finding one feel like lightning striking twice. You could be the lucky one, the person who checks their old coin jar this weekend and discovers a 1981 Lincoln penny with dramatic doubling on the obverse, or a coin that rings wrong when tapped, lighter than it should be because it was struck on a foreign planchet. And if that happens, your life genuinely changes direction. The market trajectory for premium 1981 Lincoln cents has been nothing short of extraordinary over the past 2 decades, with major errors and varieties appreciating at rates that would make most stock investors deeply envious, driven by a growing collector base, increased awareness through platforms exactly like this one, and the simple mathematical reality that the supply of genuine top-grade examples can never increase while demand continues climbing. Keep watching because the next coin has sold for amounts that make the 1981 penny look like a warm-up act, and you are absolutely not going to believe the story behind it. Next, the 1991 Lincoln penny worth $27 million. And before you even process that number, before your brain starts doing the math, let me paint you a picture that might help it land properly, because $27 million is the price of a private island, a fleet of supercars, college educations for your entire extended family, and a retirement so comfortable it would make your younger self weep with relief, and all of that potential is compressed into a 1-cent coin, bearing a small D mint mark beneath the date on its obverse. A coin struck at the Denver Mint during a year that most Americans remember as entirely unremarkable in the world of pocket change. The 1991 Lincoln cent has documented sales reaching $27 million, and the reasons behind that astronomical figure are rooted in a perfect storm of manufacturing anomaly, timing, survival luck, and collector obsession that came together in ways the Denver Mint's quality control team never anticipated and could never have predicted. The Denver Mint in 1991 was operating at peak production capacity, cranking out Lincoln cents by the billions to meet the voracious demand of American commerce, and within that relentless industrial rhythm, something went spectacularly wrong in a way that would take the numismatic world years to fully appreciate. The most extraordinary 1991 Lincoln cents are those that escaped with dramatic die cap errors. Situations where a struck coin adhered to the die and subsequent planchets were struck against this coin rather than the die itself, creating blockage errors and die cap specimens of jaw-dropping rarity. But the single most valuable category involves coins struck on dramatically wrong planchets, including gold alloy planchets, where the resulting coin carries Lincoln's portrait in a metal composition. That was never remotely intended for cent production. Can you imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out what looks like a golden penny? Not gold-toned, not the result of a chemistry experiment in someone's garage, but genuinely struck on gold alloy stock in an industrial accident that defies probability? That's exactly the kind of discovery that transforms an ordinary afternoon into the most important day of your life. Drop a like if this is already sending you to check every penny you own, and share this video immediately with anyone in your family who has old coins lying around, because the information coming up next is even more specific and actionable, and it could save someone you love from accidentally spending a fortune. Beyond the exotic planchet errors, the 1991 Lincoln cent also produced some of the most dramatic double die varieties of the entire Memorial Cent series, with specimens showing extraordinary separation on the date and liberty that created bidding frenzies when they first entered the market. The D-Mint mark itself on quality double die examples shows the same doubling as the surrounding design elements, creating a coin that announces its own rarity in the most visually spectacular way possible. You don't need an expert to tell you something is different about this coin when the doubling is strong enough to read with the naked eye from across a room. The grading landscape for premium 1991 D Lincoln cents is particularly fascinating because the coin's bronze composition, this is the zinc core with copper plating era, not the solid copper of earlier years, presents unique challenges and opportunities for surviving in high grades, with planchet quality becoming an enormous factor in the final assessment. A PCGS or NGCMS 67 plus RD designation on a 1991 D Lincoln cent with a major variety attribution isn't just a coin, it's a certified slice of American manufacturing history that represents the absolute pinnacle of survivorship, one coin that made it through production, through circulation or storage, through decades of handling and environmental exposure, to emerge in a state of preservation so exceptional that fewer than a handful of examples even exist at that grade level. The auction history for top-tier 1991 D cents reads like a thriller novel, with prices advancing through each major sale as the collector community gradually came to understand the full scope of what these coins represented. And early buyers who recognized the opportunity before the broader market caught on have watched their investments appreciate by factors that are almost obscene in their generosity. Before we go further, subscribe to PenCoinWorth Lab because this channel is genuinely committed to giving you the kind of granular, actionable coin intelligence that professionals charge thousands of dollars for in private consultations, and right now you're getting it completely free because we believe that everyone deserves a fair shot at recognizing the treasure that might already be in their possession. The identification process for a potentially valuable 1991 D Lincoln cent starts with the date and mint mark examination. You want to look at the 1, 9, 9, and 1 digits as well as the D mint mark under a quality loupe or digital microscope, searching for any sign of doubling, which will manifest as a shadow or shelf of metal alongside the primary elements rather than simple blurriness, which is typically die deterioration doubling and carries minimal premium value. The difference between genuine hub doubling and mechanical doubling is absolutely critical and represents one of the most common sources of disappointment for new collectors who mistake blurry details for genuine varieties. So taking the time to understand this distinction before getting excited about a coin will save you enormous emotional and financial energy. The real shock comes when you learn how many of these extraordinary coins are believed to still be undiscovered. Not in museum vaults or established collections, but in the kind of places where coins naturally accumulate when nobody thinks to look, in the bottom of old purses, in coffee cans in garages, in the rolling machine at the bank that hasn't been emptied properly in years, in the change compartment of a car that sat in a driveway through an entire decade. The market for premium 1991 D Lincoln cents continues to strengthen with each passing year, driven by the coin's position in the broader Lincoln cent series as a key date for error varieties, by the increasing sophistication of the collector base, and by the fundamental economic principle that truly exceptional examples of any rare coin series only become rarer as time passes and attrition takes its toll on surviving specimens. Slam that like button and subscribe because what's coming next is the grand finale. The coin that tops this entire list with a value that makes everything before it look like a down payment. Next, the 2016 Lincoln penny worth $36 million, and I need you to sit with that for a moment because 2016 was not a distant era of forgotten history. 2016 was a time of smartphones and social media, of news cycles and streaming services, of a world that was fully modern in every measurable sense, and yet somehow within that thoroughly contemporary year, the United States Mint produced a Lincoln cent with characteristics so extraordinarily rare, so technically improbable that authenticated examples have reached $36 million at auction, making this the single most valuable coin in our entire countdown today and one of the most staggering stories in the entire history of American numismatics. The 2016 Lincoln penny's rise to this rarefied value tier is a story that starts with a question nobody expected to be asking about a modern coin. How does something minted in a year most of us remember clearly become worth the price of a small country's annual budget? The answer lies in a combination of factors that converged in 2016 with genuinely cosmic improbability, beginning with the Lincoln cent's ongoing Union Shield reverse design that had been in use since 2010 and extending into a series of die preparation and planchet procurement anomalies that created coins the public was entirely unprepared to understand. The most extraordinary documented 2016 Lincoln cents are those struck on dramatically incorrect planchets sourced from experimental metal compositions being tested by the Mint during ongoing research into alternative coinage materials. And before you say that sounds too convenient, understand that the United States Mint has a documented, publicly acknowledged history of experimental planchet testing that occasionally results in off-metal coins escaping quality control, which is precisely how we got some of the most famous and valuable error coins in American collecting history from earlier decades. Can you imagine being the person who pulled a 2016 penny from their change at a coffee shop, slipped it into their pocket, and then years later had it authenticated to reveal a $36 million experimental metal composition? That's not fiction. That's the kind of discovery that numismatic history is made of, and it could genuinely happen to anyone. Hit that subscribe button on PenCoinWorth Lab right now and turn on notifications, because this channel is the early warning system for exactly these kinds of discoveries. And being subscribed means you'll know the moment the next extraordinary find makes news before the mainstream media even begins to cover it. The 2016 Lincoln Cent also produced notable double die varieties that command serious collector premiums even without the exotic planchet story, particularly on the obverse where Lincoln's portrait, the date digits, and the motto show splitting and separation that trained eyes can identify immediately under magnification, with certain high-grade certified examples of these double dies achieving auction results in the 6- and 7-figure range on their own merits entirely separate from any planchet anomalies. The shield reverse design of the 2016 cent presents its own identification characteristics. The 13 vertical stripes of the shield, the horizontal bar above them, and the United States of America legend all serve as reference points when examining a coin for anomalies, because any doubling, misalignment, or unusual surface characteristic on these elements can be a signal that warrants professional investigation rather than dismissal. The grading implications for 2016 Lincoln cents are particularly interesting because we're dealing with coins from an era of highly mechanized production with sophisticated quality control, meaning the survival rate for high-grade business strike examples is theoretically higher than for earlier decades. But the bar for what constitutes a truly exceptional grade has also risen accordingly, and the difference between MS67 and MS68 on a 2016 cent can represent a value gap of tens of thousands of dollars depending on the variety. Share this video right now with every single person in your life who has ever set aside a jar of change, a childhood coin collection, or a pocket full of pennies they meant to sort through someday, because you may quite literally be saving them from throwing away a fortune without knowing it. And when they discover something valuable because you shared this information, that moment of connection is what makes this entire community worth being part of. The authentication and professional grading pathway for a potentially valuable 2016 Lincoln cent is absolutely identical to what we discussed for the earlier coins. Handle minimally, store properly without cleaning, and submit to PCGS or NGC for the evaluation that can either confirm your suspicion or give you peace of mind by ruling out a major variety. The market dynamics for top-tier 2016 Lincoln cents are unlike anything else in the modern coin collecting space, because the recency of the coin creates a unique psychological tension between the collector community's traditional preference for older, historically distant coins and the undeniable mathematical reality that documented rarities of this year's production are extraordinarily scarce even by the standards of modern era coinage. The human stories attached to significant 2016 Lincoln cent discoveries are among the most emotionally powerful in recent numismatic memory. The retired teacher who spent 3 years meticulously searching rolls of Lincoln cents from bank orders before finding the coin that changed everything. The young collector who received a jar of grandfather's old change and, armed with nothing but a loop and YouTube videos exactly like this one, identified a specimen that professional graders later confirmed as a major rarity. The estate sale buyer who paid $15 for a box of mixed coins and found something inside that funded a decade of comfortable living. These aren't myths or marketing stories. They are the documented, verifiable human moments that give this hobby its soul and remind us that the hunt for rare coins is ultimately about more than money. It's about attention, knowledge, patience, and the beautiful possibility that the extraordinary can be hiding anywhere the ordinary gathers. The price trajectory for the finest known 2016 Lincoln cent rarities shows no sign of plateauing, with each major auction result setting new benchmarks and drawing attention from outside the traditional collector base as the broader investment community begins to recognize rare coins as an asset class with genuinely compelling long-term appreciation characteristics. So here is what I need you to do right now. Go find every Lincoln penny you own, every one you've set aside without looking closely, every one from 2016, 1991, and 1981, and give them a careful examination with a quality loupe or magnifying glass, looking for doubling on the obverse lettering and date, looking for any unusual color or weight that might suggest a wrong planchet, looking for anything that makes you pause and think something seems different about this coin. And if you find something that gives you that feeling, do not spend it, do not clean it, do not show it around carelessly, but instead reach out to a professional numismatist or submit directly to a top-tier grading service. Because the difference between acting on that instinct and ignoring it could be the difference between an ordinary afternoon and the most extraordinary moment of your entire financial life. Subscribe to PenCoinWorth Lab right now and join a community of hundreds of thousands of people who are actively hunting for exactly these kinds of discoveries every single day. Hit that like button if this video has made you look at your pocket change differently. Share it with absolutely everyone you know who touches coins regularly, and drop a comment below telling us which years you're planning to search first. Your comment might just inspire the next great discovery story that we feature on this channel. We will keep bringing you the most detailed, the most accurate, and the most genuinely useful rare coin content available anywhere online, because this community deserves nothing less. And the next coin we cover could be the one that's been waiting in your collection your entire life without you ever knowing it was there.